You know Indians though,
Hmm.
and if Indians, one thing that you can, at least India and China can agree on is preservation of culture. You know?
So okay, to clean this whole thing up. To clean this whole thing up, right? You China. This is all sound good, right? This you laid out a path. But like in reality, the nation is somewhat falling apart. Uh, you got to address that first and foremost. Seriously address it.
What percent are they falling apart? Like, you know, what percent? Because if they're 50% falling apart, that means they're more apart than they are together. Are they 90% falling apart? You know, as far as 10% is already gone, but you know, we're still holding the indecisive 30, and we have our decisive 60. You know, I wonder how weak China is if they needed to get shit done.
Mm. Well, it's like the economy did take a somewhat of a step back, you know, with the collapse. And it's more of, you got a lot of ethnic tension and like social tensions in terms of religion. It's a lot of underpinning things that I think every nation that's transitioned to potential world power status or superpower status, they have to deal with it. I think America's was the Civil War. So this is what, like this new China, I think this is theirs. They have to figure out. That doesn't mean it can turn out and everybody just succeed and just go their own way, but like that, you got to consider that as a possibility because it's like states within the states. Like I said earlier, the concentration of China's wealth is here, right? The majority of China lives here, and it's like they're still like third world. They're still so like that's a problem. That's a problem. And that's the majority of the housing crisis and that the bubble we've seen in China that's collapsing their economy. For the most part, the people here suffer from it. And then you got the Uyghur population that they've been, I'll just say allegedly, been persecuting along those lines. You got so it's like it's pretty interesting. So and then you have this whole communist. Like China got like it's still for the most part ideologically Mao's country. He was a communist. He was a staunch communist. Even though he did do some things to help, modernize their economy, make it more capitalist. But it's like if the most prosperous people is the people out there on the coast, the metropolitan people, and they're prospering from capitalism, they're gonna be seen as the problem. And I think that's a lot what's going on. So how do they deal with it? That's the multi-trillion-dollar question going forward. It can be something that completely derails them. It could be like part of the reason why China is so paranoid. They want Taiwan. It's a pride thing, but Taiwan was once a part of China, and it became a proxy for the West, and it's been giving them problems forever. Right. So it's like then you have other parts. Like you got like Bangkok. Is it Bangkok? Whatever that city is that they like to gamble a lot. Kind of like half
Thailand. That's in Thailand.
Bangkok is in Thailand. What is the
Malaysia?
Is it Shanghai? It's
Malaysia's a big. Where are we talking about?
Malaysia is a country.
Oh yeah.
I'm talking about the city. I'm talking about.
In
Hong
China.
Kong.
Yeah, Hong Kong.
Hong Kong is like
big gambling. Hong Kong's their capital, I think.
Yeah, but the thing is, no, Beijing the capital.
Oh,
so the thing is, in Hong Kong, it's like. It's literally the two Chinas coexisting. It's a Western China existing. Cause like one thing about that's what I'm saying about Vietnam. One thing about the Asians that I've learned, like they love money, bro.
Yeah, I agree.
They fucking love money. Like they love gambling. They love money. They love money, right? So that's the thing. It's like that in a city like Hong Kong, they'll tolerate Western capitalism, full Western capitalism. But like, there's another municipality district that stick to more of their traditional values and shit. So they'll make concessions for shit. So that's why I'm like, Vietnam can be a wild card now. Shit, because if Vietnam say, hey, shit, we can be the new China. So who got to deal for us? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, because they got a robust economy in the industrial thing, and they wasn't really as affected by the pandemic as China was.
That's interesting.
And they don't have as many social. Now I ain't gonna say that they don't have any. Of course they do. Well, a country with that history, but like that they're way more unified across the board than China.
Does it behoove China to attack Taiwan anyways? They won't win. It sounds like they won't win. There's a lot of promises that can be made. Shit can happen. They won't. That's probably why they wouldn't even think about getting Candace Owens, because they might not think that she could. I don't know. I'd love for Candace Owens to be arguing on behalf of someone else. Anyways, they won't win in Taiwan. Does it behoove them to get into a war, mess up some infrastructure, and possibly knock the United States off track? Anywhere from 2 to, alright, maybe, 2 to, if they were to somehow destroy Taiwan semiconductor plant, that could knock us off like 7, 8 years. And so you fuck us up for almost a decade, and then say, now we might be able to get this done in 2040. Does it still value?
I'll give you a side though. You know who's gonna be potentially within the next 10 to 30 years America's version of Taiwan?
Oh, whoa. Is this an American state or municipality?
Think about it like think about the history between the closeness of culture and the history of China and Taiwan. They had to figure out how to coexist over time, right?
You think Mexico's gonna be our fucking Taiwan?
Hell yeah.
Get the fuck away. Cause then we gotta protect Mexico.
China is fucking deep in Mexico already with them lithium mines, bro.
Yeah, but if China's deep in Mexico, then what the fuck are we gonna do?
That's what I'm saying. It's the same thing.
You think the next war is gonna happen in Mexico?
Mexico is already gearing up for a war. You got the cartels running shit. Mexico is already. It's a loose federation.
You think our cartel connection has really helped? Does Mexico turn into California?
Mexico is gonna turn to. It's a potential. If we had to do a scale, Mexico is leaning more towards. We send an independent state in Mexico saying like we just doing our own shit over here, because it's like they're already like that, right? It's like we look at the United States. The United States used to be like that, where Texas was its own country. You had the South, and then you had California. They were just we just gonna be together. But now the United States is one nation for the most part. Fuck, you go to Colorado, you see the same shit. I mean, it's differences.
Yeah, no, I was just saying.
Yeah, it's differences, but it's still America is probably one of the most unified countries on the planet, even with the divisions. But like Mexico has never did that shit. And if you look at the Mexican geography, like, cause you got Mexico City, they exist in their own shit, right? They exist in their own shit. Like that's part of what. Yeah, because they really separated by mountains. So like historically, they've always been separated from the rest of the country. So you got the Sinaloa states. So you got all these different states, and they have like unique cultures. And these cartel wars, these ain't new. Like feuds. These ain't like these are historic rivals in war factions and gang. Not they're military. They're not just gangbangers selling drugs. These niggas is Mexican military, high level police, and like they run that shit like that.
Could you have a state that exists like that? What would America's colonization of Mexico do?
Well, it wouldn't be a colonization unless it's some sort of annexation of like I can see something more of like an occupation as opposed to a colonization, because and it's crazy because there's so many Mexicans. So that's why it's so like that's what I'm saying. Mexico can be a lot like to America what Taiwan is to China because of the closeness of the cultures, right? The history. Mexico was once part of the United States, right? Like it was once occupied by the United States somewhat, like Texas and so like that. So man, it can be crazy. So like they'll fund. I'll tell you, okay, based on the United States history, I'll tell you what the United States foreign policy playbook is, right? So they'll find a cartel, which if they already don't have one or working close with one, they'll fund it. They'll try to consolidate some to basically the same playbook they did with the countries, and that's been their South American, Latin American policy, right? So, but it's likely we're going to see U.S. boots on the ground in Mexico based on the scale of things. Unless something happens, some change that's going to happen that's just really going to change things for the better. But we're likely it's going to have to happen.
I mean, do you think that it's okay? How does that go where you knock on Mexico's door and go, hey, I'm going to need to use your backyard real quick. I'm about to get in a gunfight with China. Mm-hmm. Is Mexico okay with that?
Who is Mexico? That's the thing. Who is Mexico?
Technically, but come on, dude. If whoever the fuck is Mexico is, if that nigga puts the word out, hey, stop working. Half the damn country shuts down. Those Mexicos are they're united, dude. They're united.
No, they're not. That's
they're
what I'm
united.
saying.
Mexico's united.
No, dude. Bro. My whole point.
Mexicans are united.
They're not.
Come on,
bro,
dude.
Mexicans. Cartels control state, bro. Cartels. We got to get out of the mindset like these cartels are just high-level gang, drug-pushing, mafia, Italian shit. No, these are fucking paramilitaries who run the states. In the United States, and the Mexican Constitution is almost identical, where you have the 50 states. Mexico is actually called the United States of Mexico, USM. We USA, so it's a similar system. But imagine, like, instead of you got fucking Kemp running Georgia, it's a fucking paramilitary fucking cartel running the state. They run that shit. Like, they got naval capability too. So that's what I'm saying. Who is Mexico? They all traditionally and historically, none, like all the way back from colonial time, these borders was drawn, and they never really agreed. They never agreed on what Mexico was. They always saw Mexico City as the city. They like literally in the mountains. They separated from everybody. They get the resources before anybody. That's where the rulers and the higher class people, similar to what we see in China, where you have all the coast people. They have all of the wealth and stuff like that because they occupy the water and the coast and stuff. And they it's really deep. We look at it like probably like how when the United States came together and it seems like no, it's not like that in Mexico.
But yo, how do we not? This sounds like a war. I mean, you can't.
It's already a war.
I'm saying you can't allow China to build.
China funding card allegedly.
You can't allow China to be in. How much longer do you think you can allow China to be in Mexico before they pose a legitimate threat?
They already a legitimate threat, bro. It's like
via Mexico,
right on the U.S. border, U.S. California border. There's whole half Chinese, half Mexican communities. They got their own cuisine and everything, right?
So
as deep as America.
So what the fuck are we gonna do about that? Because I've seen a lot of Chinese Mexicans. But what the fuck are we gonna do?
Like, think about it, bro.
So we gotta go to war. We have to start a war in Mexico?
It's a war already in Mexico, bro. Like, people just think that them motherfuckers doing mass graves and killing and beheading people over some drugs, bro. That's not no normal drug trade, bro. That's the shit you hear in war. It's been fucking war out there. Like what we saw in Colombia and Pablo in the 80s, it just moved up north. And you had all sort of international players in that shit. So it's like Mexico is already, but like it's like I really feel like it's probably was a part of the propaganda for Americans not to see Mexico like that. And I think Americans probably in their hubris probably didn't really understand what was happening and how deep those cartels really was and how organized they was and how much power they had over those states. So it's like the president of Mexico have no power. no power. He can't get on the phone and call shots like that. He can't shut shit down. They've been trying. That's what the whole war been about. Only thing that hasn't happened in Mexico is some fucking cartel charging into fucking Mexico City and just taking the shit. Which they don't necessarily have to do that, and they fucking smart, and they know that, so they control it. They all in that shit.
So when do you think that the war in Mexico will go public?
It's public. It's just that the public don't see it as what's happened. They just see it as it's a cartel shit.
Right
and
now,
they don't have nothing to do with us.
Right now, the war, we're not involved in it. Right?
No, I'm saying like that's how the public see it. This don't have nothing to do with us, other than we, you know what I'm saying? It's close to Texas and California and shit. And it's just some drug shit. Like if the news would have came out and said war in Mexico. This is how they frame shit. If the news would have started, instead of saying the cartels or the war on drugs or some shit like that, see, they used the war on drugs back in the 80s. It didn't have the same effect because it was closer, but at the same time, it was close. It was farther away, but it was close because we just saw the effects of the drugs on the people. But it was whole war's fault in South America, just like what's happening in Mexico. But now they just call it cartels. So people just think it's just drug dealing and this drug gangs and war and shit like that. No, it's fucking war. Them motherfuckers got tanks and shit.
Do you think that if I said what are the odds right now that China, Mexico, and the United States are all fighting each other right now in some city in Mexico, what would you say the odds
100
are?
fucking percent. 100 fucking percent. Now the 100 fucking percent. I'll bank everything I own on it.
Why isn't China mentioning the fact that they're already in a war with the United States?
Here's the deal. Like this. Look, here's the game. What do you got to gain? You can't. You don't gain
anything
nothing.
to gain from announcing that.
Right. You don't gain. You don't gain nothing from war. Unless it's just all out, we rallying the whole nation, we're on terrorism, we gonna find the ones who did this to the towers.
War on terrorism.
Yeah. So
if you see something, say something.
Chill out. Yeah, that's how that shit was. But so it's like, because most wars are unjust. I ain't gonna say all, but most wars are unjust. And it's like after all of the history and the shit that America has seen with war, and the waste, what the Iraq War, what Bush and the Iraq War did to the American taste publicly for war. Then Vietnam, they was comparing it to Vietnam. So it's not politically popular to talk about war.
Correct.
Right? So it's like,
you're saying they learned that.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. China is getting lithium. Most of the lithium plants in Mexico, especially northern and western Mexico, is on. I think it's lithium. I don't want to say the wrong chemical, but it's something that goes into batteries.
Yeah.
Just similar to Taiwan, got the microchips. The batteries are just as important for these phones.
Yeah.
Okay. So Mexico has an abundance of whatever that substance. I think it's lithium.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah. So they have an abundance of that substance. So most of those mining operations is Chinese, right? Big deal. That's huge to the multinational economy.
Yeah.
We talking this is, and America's definitely interested in what's going on. The fucking Chinese, how do they get the fucking lithium under the ground? By digging.
Yeah.
How the fuck the Mexicans know how to dig across the border to such engineering levels? Where do they get the equipment? I'm just saying. Okay. Let's look at fentanyl. Where do they say most of those pills come from? Where do they originate from? Fucking China.
Okay.
But before they get to China, how do the American dealers and sellers get it? They plug in Mexico. They Migos in Mexico. How the fuck the Mexican getting that much Chinese pharmaceuticals? And it's completely destabilizing America's public health. It's a crisis. From shit, fucking big scar likely overdose on the Yerkes, the fentanyl. It's not just fentanyl. It's those fake Percocets these motherfuckers popping. That shit coming from China, and it's free flowing into America. How is that happening? Through fucking tunnels. And it's also destabilizing America's drug trade, the legal drug trade. Because if you flood the market with legal fucking illegal or cheap fentanyl, even for doctors, they say, okay, we can get something cheaper from China, because that's what they do, cheaper product. So you flood the market with these cheap products, and then also like these cheap products is killing people, which is reflecting bad on a fucking drug that was actually made by like pharmaceuticals or some shit. You destabilizing a lot of shit. Not to mention you killing Americans.
And you're making money from it because they're probably setting up companies and
Come
shit,
on,
and
man.
salesmen and stuff like that to sell it to you.
Come on, man. Let me ask you this, right? Who's defensive? Who would you say is on the defensive? Who would you say is on the offensive? China or fucking United States?
Sounds like China's on the offensive.
Well, no. But like in terms of who has the power, who's bigger, who's more mightier, just based on their military capability, their ocean capabilities. Is China? Yeah, China is on the offensive because they've been on the defensive. They're trying to get on the offensive. They're trying to be the one with the charge ahead. But China still, for the most part, got to play defense, or else it would have been all out confrontation. Let's just invade. Let's just bomb, right? So, well, the question is, whoever has the upper hand is on the offensive, or the dominant hand, or the attacking hand. So that's the United States, right? So
okay.
So it's like, I mean, we're at a point in history where the tables are turning. So it seems a little bit skewed that it's like, it does seem like China is on the offensive.
Yeah.
But it's China attacking in defense.
Preventative measures.
Right. It's preemptive. So it's like historically it's been China under attack. Right? Like I said, they're essentially checkmated by, like, the United States is strategic with what they do. So their philosopher Sun Tzu is like, shit, when you play defense, it's hide in the recesses of the earth.
And that's why they go to Mexico. I wondered how that Great Wall got built.
Hey, you remember growing up? Well, I remember growing up in the South, right? Like, I don't want to go to Mexico no more. I'm going to dig a hole in China, something. I don't want to go to Mexico no more. I'm going to dig a hole to China, something.
I never heard that.
Yeah, it was like a little game that, like, the little girls play. And they say, like, I'm going to dig a hole with China.
I do remember that, yeah.
I don't want to go to Mexico no more. Something.
I never heard I don't want to go to Mexico no more.
Yeah, man. I don't know. It's just theories. I don't know. I'm just like, I mean, these are real games that's being played. Like, and it seemed like you.
Why would Mexico? Oh, my bad.
No, I was just gonna say most people probably wouldn't expect these government powers to play as dirty and as petty. But it's like when you talk about the stakes being that high, there is no rules. It's the illusion of rules. In figuring out how to maneuver within that framework. In the way they playing these days, they're not even China don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. They can't afford to give a fuck right now.
You think we could actually take? You think there's enough Mexicans in Mexico that could replace China's manufacturing output? Because China's manufacturing, and why wouldn't a Mexican just come to America instead of working in Mexico? But let's go the first one first, because I think you could build an economy, and that's what I wonder. If you build a city in Mexico, right? These cities start popping up with American influence.
I mean,
why the fuck wouldn't the cartel just start running into those cities? That's new money.
Bro, the majority of people, the majority of American expats is in Mexico. Like, America and Mexico is close.
Is there enough Mexicans to replace China as an art manufacturing? That's a huge move.
I mean, you don't need that many. It's like, then there's other manufacturers. I mean, we already, like, man, it's really complicated. Caesar's world.
I think that those battles in Mexico and controlling Mexico is genius.
Yep.
As far as a short-term solution.
Yeah, so it's like it used to be Cuba. It was when Russia and America had a showdown. It was the same thing between the United States and Cuba. But Cuba is, Cuba is like
They're not with the right reason?
they're a relic of the past, right? They're similar to kind of like Japan. After Japan was demilitarized. I mean, geographically, Cuba still is very important though.
Yeah.
But as far as like posing a military threat or military interest at the very moment, because Cuba is, the relationship is warming a little bit, but geographically, Cuba poses a threat. I think the people of Cuba wants to have something to do with the United States at some degree.
How long do you think it would take for us to win a war in Mexico for their minds?
It depends on what you think winning a war is, because again, it's not even about their minds. That's the fact. That's why it's so America and Mexico is so close, because we already have similar minds, right? We already have a similar outlook on what success looks like, how to work. That's why so many Mexicans and Central Americans come to America, right? Is the culture fits. One of the great litmus tests of how Americanized your culture is not baseball, it's not basketball, it's football. That's the only sport that's not global, because it's just not. But Mexico is a place that the NFL has been looking to seriously for an international franchise.
If
right?
if the NFL moves to Mexico, that's got nothing to do with the NFL. That would have everything to do with starting to create strategic movements into Mexico.
Yeah, but that's what
being
I'm
more overt about it. If you're saying Mexico's this
America's already there.
wasteland, that's what I'm saying. America would have to have already destabilized the area or stabilized it, and then they would have to, and then they would be overt. Whenever America gets a football team in Mexico, that means the war is won. You can't have a football team in Mexico with the China war going on, because people will find out about it.
You're still looking at Mexico as its whole unified. The team will likely be in Mexico City. Not, and that's in a totally different state from the rest of the states. It wouldn't be in Sinaloa, Mexico.
But you wouldn't put it in while it's hot.
What you mean?
The only reason, so there's two things. If you put it in while it's hot, you're coming in hot. You got to Trojan horse it. If that's your plan, but I would rather think that if Mexico and America are making moves like that to where it's globally aware, this whole entire war has been fought in the shadows.
Well, let me say this. A team in Mexico City doesn't mean the same thing as a team in Sinaloa or the Tabasco region. It don't mean the same thing. You see what I'm saying?
Go ahead, continue. Why?
Because again, it's not one Mexico, one mind. It's like Mexico City may be where all of the Americans go take the trips to Cabo and stuff like that. They may be more American. They may be more capitalist. But you got parts of Mexico that's still more socialist. You got then you got the hardline places where Americans don't dare go because cartels got to earn grip on that. So that's what I'm saying. If it was unified, then it's like, okay, we can do this in this whole nation. But just because they move a team to, okay, just like, look at it like, the LA Rams they moved from St. Louis back to LA. That shouldn't mean nothing to, that shouldn't even mean nothing to San Francisco.
San Diego, yeah.
It didn't even mean nothing, that's them. Like, we got our own shit over here.
But what about this? This is what I pros. I hear what you're saying. I'm just wondering if what I'm saying is getting through, and if it is. If there's a war, I'm fighting with Russia covertly in Augusta, right? I'm fighting a covert war with Russia. I'm not putting it on the news. Nobody knows about it. Then would I build a football team in Atlanta unless I knew that war with Russia was over, for the idea that perhaps whatever's going on in Augusta could
why not?
bleed its way into Atlanta.
No, because it's
and
hearts
then
and minds.
People would know about it. Huh?
It's hearts and minds.
Excuse me?
Hearts and minds. It's like, why not? Why not? If these people is already friendly with us, why not keep it friendly? Why not just be like, keep reminding them that, hey, this is a good time over here. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like, it's hearts and minds. It's propaganda. It's like,
but it's.
Then they
if
do
I'm trying to keep a war secret, though, I can't have it.
It's not about keeping it secret, because everybody knows, especially the people who live there, and even in America, people who pay attention, we know it's some conflict going on. It's some shit going on. So the NFL already plays a game in Mexico every year. They just played one several weeks ago. It's like, but to your point, it's like, that's one of the questions. What would it look like for us to put a team officially in Mexico with all of the cartel action? But they figured that shit out just like they did in they gonna figure it out just like they did in Las Vegas, because that was the main reason why they was like, oh, Vegas shouldn't have a pro team because yada yada yada, gambling, and back in the day it was supposed to be the mafia taking control of shit, and then it was gambling, but they just built a $5 billion stadium there for the Raiders.
I think Las Vegas was a lot more stable than a lot more decent. It was a lot less of a hot zone in Mexico City, though.
Well,
it's a lot more controllable. It's still U.S. soil. I think that it's still a U.S. structure. Like, it's not like Las Vegas was leading in rogue murders or something like that. Like, well, they could have been, actually. It wasn't at the point to draw national interest.
I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, we put Mexico City numbers up.
But I guess my point is, like, when it comes to money, especially America, they gonna do whatever they want to do, or whatever they feel like is in their best interest, right? Because it's like, I really feel like this whole thing is a sham.
Excuse, what whole thing?
America. America's not what people think it is.
What do you think it is?
A fucking business. It's the biggest business on the planet, and it's like.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It's like some people own it, and it's not who we think own it.
Well, when you get elected, you become president of the company, right? Even if you're the president, you still got to answer to the board.
Yeah, you work for somebody.
Nobody talks about the board, but
Mm-hmm.
a president can't just do whatever they want,
Mm-hmm.
because the board could veto it or just go ahead and get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the power to do that whenever they want, which, right to your point, sounds like the American system. Who knows what starts an impeachment?
China own a lot of shit in America too.
So how do we counteract that shit? What if the game,
unless you white?
I mean, what if the game the whole time is for China and America to work together? What if America's, the board of America, don't they kind of see more eye to eye than with China, than with what Americans think America is? All the stuff that we're doing. I mean, we could talk about, what's going on to do it, like, with free speech and stuff like that, and kind of the attacks that are being done on free speech. But I think that those free speech and shit like that, they're active assaults for people to take away our rights, right? And the whole gun ownership and stuff like that. And people would go, well, where does it come from? I think everybody knows where it comes from. The narrative's been out for a while. There's an initiative for us to not be armed so that we can't defend ourselves, subdue, make us submissive, all this other shit. And so it's like, what are they trying to do? What's the end goal? if they succeed at what they're doing, to not imply that they haven't, what does that look like? Probably looks a lot like what China's been talking about. You know? Censoring what kind of stuff? I heard niggas that are supposed to be hardcore niggas telling it how it is, and they're on YouTube and they go, this girl's alleging that she was raped. You can't say rape in America?
Great.
Grape. Yeah, she was grape.
Yeah, they censoring shit.
Niggas are censoring themselves. These are the leaders censoring
niggas
themselves.
Niggas fuck.
Grape. Niggas said grape.
She was great.
The
That sounds worse.
Even worse.
What was great?
She was great.
You ever been great before? Sounds like you was grabbed, groped, and raped.
Yeah, right? It definitely sounds like a more prolonged effort.
That's an aggressive one right there. That G is just aggressive as
A
fuck.
grape happens in an alley.
Damn.
You know? A grape happens on a dark, stormy night, yo.
That's the wrong fruit. That's the wrong little small edible fruit when it comes to sex. I mean, cherries getting popped is good, but you don't want to get grape.
Yeah. Yeah. And grape, it just adds a whole another 20% on. You know, at least rape is quicker. Rape sounds quicker. You gonna grab me and then grope me and then rape me?
You just added a whole letter to that
You added
shit.
a whole fucking letter to that.
You made the word longer.
Why are you piling on? Rape is bad enough. They're piling on some G shit. These bitches are getting fucked up out here.
What
yo.
the fuck, man?
We do got a problem.
She got graped.
Grape, yo. They need to censor grape. They need to censor grape on YouTube.
Don't give them no ideas.
It's already part of their plan.
There's gonna be some vegans.